Okay, let's move on from commitment and let's talk a little bit about resilience. Couple of things I want to talk about in terms of resilience. First, as I'm sure you're aware because I've mentioned it before, the recession when it hit in '08 really has had an impact on the district's operational expenses and expenditures. We've really had to reanalyze how we spend our dollars. You know, the revenue stream just hasn't been there, and when we understand that, the revenue stream has not been there for the state of Kansas. But what I want to point out is the resilience, I believe, that we've had as a school district, and quite frankly, our neighboring districts as well. I know John mentioned Shawnee Mission earlier, and I think Olathe is here represented, and Spring Hill, Gardner, and DeSoto. I want to mention them as well, because I try to do this every year, because I want people to know how much we collaborate with our area school districts and how much we work together and support one another. Because you know what, we're all educating kids. It doesn't matter where a certain kid happens to live, we're all educating kids. And so we work really closely together and really hard to ensure that every kid in Johnson County is going to get a phenomenal education. That being said, we've all, I think, withstood this and continue to excel. And I think the resilience of the school districts, the resilience of our teachers, their willingness to keep forging ahead in these difficult financial times really has shown through, and I appreciate that. This is a good point for me to mention, a good time for me to mention the last legislative session. And I know we've got some local legislators here, but we were really thankful and appreciative that our local legislators were able to hang together and to see that we had the potential of a 2% local option budget increase. One of the first real infusions of additional dollars that we'd had in a number of years. And it was not easy for them to do that. In fact, it was very controversial, but when the bill finally, finally came out and was finally voted on, we were allowed to raise our LOB from 31 to 33%. And we were able to do that based on a vote of our local Board of Education. And they did that, so we've been able to increase our budget by about $3 million with that additional 2%. And we're very appreciative that we were able to do that. By the way, that additional $3 million, the bulk of that went to teacher salaries because they had been in a position for the last X number of years where salary increases were just virtually nil or very small. And so we feel like we really wanted to reward them for their resilience and all the hard work that they had done. Now, the second reason I mention this is that the second part of that legislation is that that's only good for 1 year. If we want to maintain that additional $3 million in revenue, that's not another 3, that's to maintain that, that additional 2%, we have to have a public vote. So sometime within the next year, we will be having a mail-in ballot election, a referendum, so to speak, asking voters whether or not they would be willing to support maintaining that 2% that our Board of Education decided we so vitally needed. So I'm just setting the stage here. Be ready for that, be looking for that, because we will want you to be informed citizens, and we will want you to help your friends and neighbors know the facts so that they can make an informed vote when that does come out. My guess is it'll be sometime after the first of the year, and my guess is we won't be the only Johnson County school district going to the voters with this particular issue. But I want to set the stage for that and be sure you're aware of that. When it comes to resilience, there's another kind of resilience. And I would refer to that as psychological resilience. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention just briefly the tragedy that we all endured last spring at the Jewish Community Center and Village Siloam. Now, I don't want to fixate on the tragedy. What I want to do is talk about the resilience and the good that has come from the evil that was perpetrated with that nonsensical act. Because folks, what I saw happen afterwards, the love, the compassion, the groups of adults getting together and caring for kids, the group of kids caring for kids, a whole community coming together, not just a Blue Valley community, but a Johnson County, even across the state line community coming together to support in a very trying and sad time. I'm here to tell you, when I drove to that funeral and drove down Knoll and saw that wall of affirmation where all of those, I'm going to get choked up, just like I did then, saw that wall of affirmation and those kids supporting righteousness and supporting goodness and supporting truth and fighting against evil, it just made my heart swell. I mean, it was an unbelievable experience. And I know Mindy's here today, and I just want to mention Mindy and her family because they were the role models. They absolutely showed us how to respond in a tragic time like that. So I'm not going to ask you to applaud. I don't want you to do that. I don't think that would be appropriate, but I just do want to mention that because this community really came together and I think really is changed, and they took a tragic evil event and turned it into something good, and I think are going to continue to turn that experience into something positive. You know, resilience can come in day-to-day issues as well. Sometimes we just have to persevere, and we just have to be able to, to look difficulty in the face and say, I'm going to proceed anyway, and I'm going to succeed. We're going to show you a story now about Maggie and a group of folks that rallied around Maggie that I really think helps emphasize this whole community aspect of resilience. So here's Maggie.